The first panelist is Nikki Glanton. Nikki Glanton joined the U.S. Army in March of 2001 and retired in September of 2022 as Master Sergeant in the Public Affairs field. She served a total of 21 and a half active duty years. She completed 5 combat tours to the Middle East and is the recipient of 3 Permanent Unit Awards, 4 Meritorious Service Medals, 5 Army Commendation Medals, and 11 Army Achievement Medals. After retiring 1 year ago, she was recruited to be the very first Director of Communications for the first ever African American in history to be voted in as the Sheriff of Cobb County. After standing the office of Communications for the Cobb County Sheriff, she accepted a new role to serve as the Director of Communications for a nationally recognized Atlanta-based nonprofit and is scheduled to be elevated to Vice President of Communications at the end of this February. Nikki's job is to drive communications and operation strategies that engage with stakeholders to tell the story and protect an organization's brand. She is the daughter of former state representative Mike Glanton Sr., who was responsible for regaining Clayton County's school accreditation, bringing MARTA to Clayton County, and co-founding Elite Scholars Academy. She is also the sister of Mike Glanton Jr., who is now running for state representative of District 75, which is the seat that their father, Mike Glanton Sr., held for the last 16 years. Nikki is a graduate of Morrow High School, class of 1999, and is proud to call Clayton County, Georgia, her home. Her goal is to use all the worldwide experiences and skills that she has acquired while serving in the military to impact, empower, and serve the people of Georgia. Our next panelist is Tony Richardson. Tony Richardson is a husband, a father, a thinker, and a leader. Tony Richardson is the founder and CEO of Capital Catalyst Group, LLC, a retired U.S. Air Force officer. He has led teams and provided valuable strategic leadership and communication strategies to C-suite clients, from the U.S. Department of Defense, the Department of State, and several major Fortune 500 companies. Tony is a native of Columbus, Mississippi, and has a wife, Ina, and 2 children, TJ and Gabby. In addition to enjoying family fun time, he is an avid reader, auto enthusiast, and sports fanatic. Can we get a round of applause? Our next panelist is Nikita M. Floor. Nikita Floor is a diversity, equity, and inclusion champion, veteran advocate, and conscientious builder. Ms. Floor excels at opportunities to develop new programs and incorporate sustainability into existing organizational systems. She has over 15 years of federal civilian service. Ms. Floor has been responsible for the development and maintenance of customer experience and compliance programs focused on incorporating stakeholder input and delivering results. Ms. Floor is a veteran of the U.S. Army and holds a certified rehabilitation counselor certification, bachelor's and master's degree from Southern Illinois University of Carbondale in English and Rehabilitation Counseling respectively, and a Juris Doctorate and Health Law Certificate from the University of Maryland Francis King Carey School of Law. Ms. Floor also enjoys traveling, coaching, and mentoring. Mentoring and volunteering. Okay. Our next panelist is Dwayne Webb. Mr. Dwayne Webb is a U.S. Army Major retired. Mr. Webb is an Aerobic and Fitness Association of America certified personal trainer and the president and CEO of All About Fitness Incorporated. Mr. Dwayne Webb graduated from Grambling State University with a bachelor's degree in business management in 2008. He also completed his master's in intelligence studies in 2013 at the American Public University and received a second master's in public relations, corporate communications in 2019 from Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies. Dwayne is the founder and CEO of the global All About Fitness Family Incorporated 501c3, a nonprofit, and the Kingdom Investments and Beyond LLC Public Relations Consulting, a Georgia-based PR firm. Thank you all. Now we're going to get started. I do apologize. Give us one moment. We have one little technical thing. Give us one moment, please.
Testing, testing. Testing.
Testing, testing. Now that we've introduced all of our panelists, we're going to go ahead and get started with the questions. Okay, so first question is, many veterans struggle to establish a new way of life after transitioning from the military. What did your military transition look like, and how does that translate to what you're doing today?
Oh, I guess I will start. First, I'd like to thank everyone for welcoming me and my friends, my battle buddies, to speak at today's VetConnect event. It's good to be back home. Just retired from the military last September, so I'm a year in as a civilian, so I'm still learning. So my transition started like this. Whew. I was offered a position to be the strategic advisor for a director appointed by the President of the United States, right before I was about to retire. And it was supposed to be 100% remote, and I said, okay, well, let me go ahead and move back home to be close to my family. Well, 1 week before Thanksgiving, I received an email saying, Nikki, we apologize, but we want to focus more on hiring junior personnel. Junior personnel and not hire anybody senior. At that moment, I was jobless. I had moved into Buckhead in a condo in Buckhead because I just knew I was going to be making the money. So, lesson learned, do not make any plans unless you have an offer letter. Because I based my entire transition plan on that. For 6 months, I was jobless, trying to figure out I lost my way. Like I thought that I was not as good as I thought I was. I'm like, people are not hiring me. Why aren't people rushing, standing in line, trying to hire me? Luckily, I reached out to the sheriff of Cobb County, and he had wanted to start a communications department, so he brought me on, and from there, that's where I began to show my skills and get recognized, and then I got another job offer, and it's still going and going. So that's how my transition worked out.
Thank you for that. Would any other panelists like to answer that question?
Hello. Again, thanks everybody for coming out. This is super cool. This is a beautiful facility, by the way. So me and Dwayne were talking when we showed up, like, man, this is dope. I wish we had something like this. And I live right outside Montgomery, Alabama, in Prattville. So small town, about the same thing. Nice little suburb. It would be great if they did things like this for the veterans there as well. So I've been texting people as I've been walking around and seeing all your smiling faces and north-south head nods. This is a really great thing. I mention that because, like my transition, I retired in 2020, just as COVID hit. So everybody who's in here can remember what it was like when you're doing your out processing. You can imagine what that's like if everything is kind of like shut down, and if you were looking to go and do things where you were trying to go and work for some type of a company, all of those things were shut down too. During that time, much as Nikki pointed out, you can have those thoughts of like imposter syndrome going to creep in, but good friends like Dwayne and Nikki, I just met Nikita recently. She's dope as well, you will see quickly. They remind you that one of the best superpowers you have is the fact that when you bet on yourself, you don't have to worry about what is going to go and fall in front of you. You may be able to go and take a path and go and create. So to this point, I still have not walked into anybody else's work center. I have my own company. I have a year left on my doctorate. One other thing that we'll mention here later on is we're talking about education and other things that are available to you. The U.S. government has paid for all of these degrees, including this one, while I'm on the outside. And so transition-wise, getting that mental state ready so that you can go and fight matters. The fight, though, is a little bit different because where you were used to having that entire support structure around you and you see them every day, you just had to reach out to them in a different way. But from that point, it's been pretty good. I'm a fan. Thank you.
I'll answer because my military transition is a bit different from everyone else on the panel. I'm the only veteran here that's not retired from the military, but I did serve. And so my transition actually consisted of exiting the military on a temporary duty retirement list because I was a disabled veteran. So I was in a car accident while I was in the military, and it was extremely tragic and left me with some debilitating disabilities, which I actually miraculously am, pretty much healed from at this moment in time, as far as you can see. So I left the military as a disabled veteran and went right to college. So my transition, may resonate with some of you in the room who are recently transitioned or are disabled veterans who are looking to find alternative career paths in your lives at this point. I left the military, and as Tony just mentioned, I was in a vocational rehabilitation program, so Chapter 31, which is known to most veterans. And I went to college and had excellent vocational rehabilitation counselors who assisted me through that process, which made me want to become a vocational rehabilitation counselor. So I finished my bachelor's degree, thankfully through the vocational rehabilitation program, and went on to pursue my master's degree in rehabilitation counseling, as well as later pursue a law degree. And so through that transition, I had lots of visits to VA hospitals, lots of trying to get my medical situation squared away, and lots of other mental health challenges that I faced during that time. And so for me, the transition was very much emotional, but also afforded me an opportunity to pursue my dream of becoming an attorney, and also helping other veterans like yourselves in the room, and always pursuing an opportunity to volunteer at events like this, and also just, serve in whatever way that I can.
How's everybody doing? So I have to make myself talk slower. I'm from Louisiana, I'm from the country, and I talk really, really fast. But my transition was met with a lot of anxiety, a lot of resistance, a lot of apprehension. I'm an Air Force brat, but I went off in the Army. That was the first resistance. My dad really, 2 or 3 years into my Army career, still tried to find ways and research ways to get me to switch to the Air Force. So I stayed in the Army and I stayed the course, and 25 years later, you would never, ever get the response out of me that I would get out. I was the person that wanted to stay in as long as the military would allow me to stay in, but life hit me. I got out 7 months ago, June 1st, 2023. And medical situations and injuries helped me make that decision to put in my retirement paperwork. I tore my meniscus, I tore my hamstring on the same side, and also life. One of the things you realize, and one of the things I realized, June 1st, which was my first day as a civilian, I remember waking up and not knowing how to feel. I said, wow, I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have a job to go to. What do I do now? That's even after going through 1 year of the transition services that they offer and learning about Chapter 31 and vocational rehab, etc. I still felt an emptiness June 1st when I woke up, and I remember it like yesterday. I say all that to say this: if you don't have something that's meaningful to focus on, and if the military or any job is your sole provider when it comes to mental health, when it comes to how you feel about yourself, you're gonna find yourself in dark and lonely places. I was a military brat, that's all I knew. And then I went in the military for 25 years, not making a plan to exit until it was time, and injuries and life circumstances forced me to put in my retirement paperwork. So unlike some people that have a plan and they're racing for the door, I went to the door, the exit door, the retirement door, with a lot of resistance. So that was my path.
Thank you all so much for sharing your transition stories. Now, my mother was in the military. She was in the Army, so I'm an Army brat. And my mother, it wasn't that she wasn't home, but when she had field duty or other things, she wasn't as home as maybe most other parents. So when she actually transitioned into retiring and became a full-time parent at home, we had to adjust because she was at home more often, and her rules were a little different from my father's rules. And so it was a little challenging. And I just want to know, what did you guys find most challenging during your transition, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So, I'd come back. So I had a period of time. So my wife is, she's retired Air Force as well. And this was 2015. I came back from a deployment. This was like my 5th deployment at the time. And we were also in the middle of a period where one of the 2 of us had been gone for 7 straight Christmases for at least 6 months or more. So all we were doing is high-fiving each other. And during that time, we had both of our kids. And so I came back. At this time, so my son TJ is 8 at the time. I'm back for maybe 3 days, and he had a project that was due, and he was like, hey, I gotta figure out what I wanna be when I grow up. I was like, oh, well, what you thinking? And all he said was like, I have no idea, but I know I don't wanna be in the military. I was like, why not? He's like, man, y'all are gone too much. I'm like, here's the wisdom from an 8-year-old. So that's the part that made up my mind. I was like, hey, look, anything over 20 years, let me go and research this and figure out what the math actually looks like. It's like, oh yeah, anything over 20 years. This time is for you. I don't believe in doing any additional work. I need to go get this 100%. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody needs some help on that? That's why we're all here today. Let's go get that 100 if you ain't got it already. See these fingers that are going up? Go find these people in the crowd. But when that happened, the bigger part was, if I know I'm gonna go and give my time to them, when I got to the point where I retired, and my wife too, we both ended up spending a lot of time at home just to go and reconnect. Because all of those years where we've talked about our own emotional traumas and tolls, our kids were carrying and holding those same types of things as well. So without spending that type of time and go into rebuilding the bonds so that they can see, hey, this is what those sacrifices were about, and actually having those conversations with them in a real and authentic manner. I can't imagine that the strength of our relationships that we have there in the home would be anything near what they are right now, and they are thriving. So I'm blessed for that.
So my biggest challenge was discovering who I am without the title. I have been a title since the age of 19. Hey, private, move private, get over here, private. Yes, sergeant, no sergeant. Yes, master sergeant, no master sergeant. I have been a title for the last 21 and a half years, and now I am titleless, jobless, and my calendar is empty. I mean, when I looked at my calendar, I never realized how important a full calendar made me feel. No one was calling me, and when in Atlanta, and especially in Buckhead, when you're introducing yourselves, a lot of people like to ask, what do you do? And I'm just like, I'm retired. Oh, you retired? Okay. But I didn't know who I was without that title. So I believe that it was destined that I did not get that job immediately. Because during that 6 months of being jobless, I was able to figure out who I was without the title, who messed with me without a title, right? I got to figure out who I want to represent, what I want to represent, and just take my time in transitioning. So that was my most challenging moment, a lot of dark moments. Like I said, I purchased a condo in Buckhead in a high-rise because I lived here in Clayton County, and as you drive down 75, I would, as a young kid, I'd be like, oh, I want to live over there. They have all the nice stuff. They had Lenox Mall, all that. So I said, when I retire, I'm going to move to Buckhead. And I did just that. And I would go up to the top of the roof, and I would intentionally go to the top of the roof and look at all the skyscrapers in Atlanta. See, from the ground, those skyscrapers look huge. They look like you can't maneuver around those buildings. But when I elevated myself and I went to the top of the roof, I was able to look down and see that there are multiple ways to get where you need to go. It reminded me, by looking at those buildings and those spaces, that there were more ways to succeed, and that's how I overcame my challenge.
For me, I alluded to this in my previous response. Leaving the military as a disabled veteran was an extreme challenge because I was 21 years old. You know, when you're 21, you think you're invincible. I had an accident that could have killed me. And so for me, it was navigating the mental health challenges, navigating going back and forth to the VA because I was partially paralyzed. It was extremely difficult for me, and there were, you know, as many people have said already, a lot of depressing moments, but also moments where you're figuring out, where do I want to go from here? And so college was a logical choice for me. I was always smart. I was going to go to college before I joined the military, but decided not to because my parents wouldn't buy me a car. I was that kid. And I didn't want to get dropped off at school and not have a way to get around. So I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll join the Army. And my parents thought I was crazy, but you know, I made it through, and once I got out on as a disabled veteran, I decided, you know what, I can still go to college, because now I've got nothing but time. And so between going back and forth to the VA hospital, figuring out my own, you know, mental health and healthcare situation, I enrolled in college. I went to junior college for the summer, and at that point I was like, I'm ready to move and, you know, transition to a 4-year university. And so that's exactly what I did, and I never stopped. Like, education is my thing, it's my jam. I got a lot of degrees, a lot of experiences, and they've actually helped me learn more about myself, build my own self-confidence, understand that I can contribute to the world in whatever way that looks like for me. And sometimes it's not college. Sometimes it's getting a trade. Sometimes it's volunteering in your community and giving back to people who gave so much to you. I think, you know, as a veteran transitioning, as I believe Dwayne said and Nikki said, it's like every day you're being told what to do. Somebody's asking you something, somebody's telling you something, they're ordering you around, move here, do this, you know, get this, handle this, and then your life is free. Like once you're finished with that, it's like, what am I gonna do now? And so I think that transition can take a different path for many different people. But I think for me, and a lot of veterans who do leave the military as disabled veterans and have challenges, it's very important to tap into the resources that are available to you, tap into, you know, mental health resources that may be available to you, and get yourself straight so that you can go out there and be the best you and represent yourself well in the world, but also represent yourself well to your family and your friends and all of the people that rely on you to, you know, be their support. You got to build your own support system. So I think for me, the challenge was making sure that I understood what that support system looked like, building it for myself, and taking care of me.
What I'm going to say has no timeline on it. And I say that because I'm on month 7 of retirement. But many, many people, as I look out in the audience, have been either retired or separated from the military for a while. The 2 challenges that I faced as recently as 7 months ago, some of you all out in the audience, or I would venture to say most of you all, are facing. Number 1 is trusting your purpose. And number 2 is being okay with the fact that it's okay not to be okay. I was infantry, I was a paratrooper, jumping out of planes. I met Nikki at Fort Bragg, now called Fort Liberty. You couldn't run faster than me because I made it a point to run faster than you. You couldn't do more push-ups, you couldn't do more sit-ups. I went over to the special operations side of the house for support. I wanted all those hard jobs. Like I mentioned before, I never thought I would get out the military. But then life hit, and then a torn meniscus hit, and then a torn hamstring hit. And then I'm in Iraq in March 2020 at the height of COVID, and I get a Red Cross message about my mom. Hey, you need to come back from the Middle East, and you need to come back immediately. Then I get a call that my mom was shot and paralyzed from the waist down. Then I get a call from my dad and says, hey, the VA mentioned that C word and said they found it in my prostate. Then life began to change because now my mom, who's in Texas, and my dad, who's in Louisiana, are facing life-changing things, and I'm in Iraq. And I remember the very first day I got to Iraq and I landed, they put me on these vehicles to drive me to this location. I went to the little trailer to get my favorite food, which is gummy bears and Twizzlers. And I walked to my room, and that night I thought I was dreaming. I heard, incoming, incoming, incoming. This is my first day in Iraq. I'm tired, I've been flying from Kuwait. Then we landed, then getting on a vehicle is hot. And I literally think I'm either dreaming or I'm playing a video game. And by that time it was too late. You hear the missiles hitting outside. My very first night in Iraq on my 2nd or 3rd rotation to Iraq. So I hear people scrambling and running to the different places where they teach you to go, bomb shelters, etc. And all I can do is pull the blanket over my head and say, God, it's too late to go outside now. I need you to protect me. I knew then, when I got back, it was time to go. It was time to get out the military. What mattered to me more in that moment was coming back to my daughter, who's 15, coming back to my mom, who's paralyzed, and coming back to my dad, who was in a fight for his life, an Air Force retiree, 22 years of service. It's okay not to be okay was one of the hardest things for me to accept. Never went to a mental health specialist until 2 years before I retired. Never did. I didn't think I needed it. I'm a PK. I grew up in the country, and you better go in there and go to sleep. It'll be okay in the morning. You better go in there and get on your knees. You better go in there and pray. I sit in here, I'm a child of God, and I believe in purpose, but God made mental health specialists to help us. And it took me a long time to understand that. So trust your purpose. And many people say they trust God, but actually doing what he wants you to do is a different story. Trust your purpose and walk in it, and be okay with not being okay. 2 challenges that I faced. Guarantee everybody in this room is facing that. When you find out your purpose, Nikki was one of my role models. I told her that yesterday for the first time. She knew her brand before she got out. I didn't even know what LinkedIn was. But Nikki was building her brand before she got out. And I literally, when I built my LinkedIn page, went to Nikki's page and said, this is the model. So before you all leave today, go in the back and get a photo. Fix your hair, lay down, pat down them edges, whatever you need to do. Get a photo, go home, go to the LinkedIn workshop, build your LinkedIn, figure out your purpose, and walk in it. And be okay with not being okay. Those are the challenges I had to overcome.
Thank you all so very much for sharing your stories. Thank you. And while we're on the topic of overcoming challenges, let's talk about the mental health and wellness, as you got, both of you, Nikki and Dwayne, alluded to. Disabled veterans face challenges regularly, and sometimes this leads to depression and suicide, which are both at all-time high for veterans. What does unplugging look like for you when you need to take a knee and apply self-care? What do you do to, unwind?
Well, I mean, I'm probably the one on the panel that talked the most about mental health and making sure that you take care of yourself. So for me, I think tapping in for me looks like volunteering, looks like talking to people like you and doing what we're doing here today, sharing our stories and sharing our experiences so that we can allow that to resonate with other people. I know when I was going through my transition, I felt alone. I was young. I didn't know many people who had experienced what I had experienced if they were outside of the military, and now I was separated from that experience. And so for me, it was really building that support. My battle buddy's in the room today. So she's one of my major supporters, and we always support each other. We went through boot camp together, we were stationed together, and so we've just, established a lifelong friendship that we both really value, and I appreciate so much. I think tapping in is, getting out in nature, going on a hike, exercising, which is really important for mental health, right? I think a lot of people say, I'll do that later. I want to take a walk, but it's cold. I don't have the time in my schedule. I got other things to do. But again, taking care of yourself is the only way that you're going to be able to take care of anyone else. And so I think however you choose to tap in, whether that be, health and wellness, whether that be seeing a mental health professional, I think it's extremely important. And for me, I'm a veteran advocate because I am a disabled veteran, but I also worked at the VA for many, many years, working with veterans who had serious mental illness and other disabilities. And I can't tell you how important it was for me to see someone come in broken and down and turn that all the way around through getting the care and support that they need through the VA and through other resources that have helped them just be a stronger individual and really show up in the world the way that they want to show up. So I think tapping in, however that looks like for you, is going to be extremely important, but it's also going to help boost your mental health and also get you to a place where you can do the things and, as Dwayne mentioned, live in your purpose.
Thank you for that, Nikita. Also, I would like to ask, since we were talking about resources, what are some of the programs and resources that any of you took advantage of during your transition? What are some resources that you found helpful?
So one of the resources that I found helpful was the local VA. I live in Columbus, Georgia. So when Nikki said, hey, I have this ideal, I want to help veterans in Clayton County, I have another event going on right now that I literally put people in charge of for my nonprofit to come down here because this is important to me. Going to the VA and going to the front desk and says, hey, I have a mental health emergency. Never thought I would say that. So at the VA, I believe it's VA-wide, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but I know for a fact at the Podeshef Clinic in Columbus, Georgia, you can walk in and say, I have a mental health emergency. They're gonna ask you 2 questions. Do you wanna kill yourself? And do you wanna kill someone else? And then they send you to talk to a mental health specialist on the spot. I have an appointment with a VA mental health specialist next week. I never thought, and most men in here probably deal with this, that my macho self, my jumping out of planes and skydiving through the clouds, going to Iraq, being a part of Army Special Operations, that I would stoop down and swallow my ego and say, I need to talk to somebody about what's going on with me. So that's the resource that I use, the walk-in mental health benefit that every single veteran has. All you have to do is swallow your pride and go ask.
I'll say too, there's a few other resources, and some of them may be in the room today. You'll hear about the Career One Stop is another place if you're looking for employment after a military transition. The Department of Labor, Veterans Employment and Training Service hosts what they call a Jobs for Veterans State Grant. And so at every state in the United States, they have a job center is what they used to call them, but they're called Career One Stops. And so they assist veterans with finding jobs, assist you if you're on unemployment, with finding another position, applying for positions, actually helping you create a resume. So again, utilizing the LinkedIn session that we're having here today will be helpful to just start building that portfolio and building out, explaining your skill set and describing who you are and what you can do, and then receiving that additional help. Another resource is Chapter 31 Voc Rehab. If you're eligible for it, I would recommend anyone who has that eligibility go there and talk to a vocational rehabilitation counselor. That doesn't mean you need to go to college. It doesn't mean you need to be in a specified program. They will assist you with whatever your needs are for the goals that you have for your career and your life after that military transition. I've seen people go through Voc Rehab and get 4-year college degrees, get associate's degrees, get certifications and licensures that allowed them to gain, other alternative forms of employment. So I think that's another resource that can be very beneficial. I would always say, like Dwayne said, go to the VA. There's a lot of resources that even us as veterans don't know about until we ask the question. And so once you share that you're having those challenges and those struggles, then they will be able to, provide those resources to you and share additional information about what that looks like and what those may be. Also in communities, the VAs have what they call vet centers. And so if you're looking for mental health counseling or group therapy, or you want to talk to other people who may have experienced the same things that you've experienced, there are vet centers located throughout the United States affiliated with the VA, but not the VA hospital. So if that's intimidating to you, it's a smaller, more intimate setting, and will allow you to receive group therapy and talk to people and just share your experience so that you don't feel alone. And so I think that's the most important piece. The VA also has a crisis line. So if you are in crisis, thinking about harming yourself or committing suicide, they have a crisis line with specialists that will talk you through that situation and assist you from there. So I think a ton of resources for transitioning veterans. If you're interested in any of them, I'm more than happy to chat further with you about them at the conclusion of this panel. But again, a lot of resources that you can tap into that can be extremely helpful during a military transition.
I'll echo what Dwayne said as well about the mental health side. So there's several people that are also in the room. So much like myself, these guys, you end up getting that anxiety, depression, PTSD combo. And the way it takes you down and humbles you, and the way you have to find a way to humble yourself to go and use those resources. Can't say enough how instrumental that was in going to figure out the development. Also, as Nikita mentioned, from an education perspective, I'm using the combination of the GI Bill, the post 9/11 one that they have there, you can use your other one too, but also the universities themselves. Anything that you need to, because like my doctoral programs at Vanderbilt, they taxing people, man, that's costly. But there's all of these veterans programs that are out there to go and add to it, so still, there's no money out of my pocket. The other two things that I would mention though is, as a creator, you know, I'm one of those people who, I like to bet on myself. So if there's a thing that I believe I can go and do, I still have that thing where, oh, you know what? I can do it, I'm gonna do it. The Veteran Small Business Development Centers that you have in your, all your different locations, as many people go to, he's like, hey, look, I've always been great at cutting hair, or maybe I just want to do a janitorial business. There's always money in going to do what other people won't do. Somebody will pay you to do it because they don't want to. So the Veteran Small Business Development Center is great at helping you figure out what are the things you need to do, not only license-wise, but also skill-wise, for being able to navigate and get some of those government contracts, which we all know are lucrative. And last but not least, the networking programs like what you have here for VetConnect. I was fortunate, so one of the years that I was still active duty, I was downtown at Coca-Cola. So I dressed like this every day, and I was, you know, the 22-story, whatever, right there across from Georgia Tech. I got to go and look out and see this beautiful city, and there were veterans programs that were right there on the spot. They were like, hey, it doesn't matter how long you've been out. It was 4 block. You can look them up as well. Hey, 13 weeks, it's a cohort, everything is local. We're gonna take you to Home Depot this week. We're gonna take you to Coca-Cola headquarters this week. We're gonna get you headshots. We're gonna do resume development. There's all types of programs that are like that in a city or area that is this size with this much of a veteran population. I encourage you all, go and make use of those. There are plenty of people who are fully invested in making sure that you can go and live your best self and continue to give back to those who have protected us for so long.
Okay. Well, me, I took advantage of internships and apprenticeships. I was selected for the Training with Industry program while in the military. This was part of my 5-year exit plan. So I got a chance to work with Arthur Blank Sports and Entertainment here for a year in 2019. During that time, I made sure that my goal was to meet as many people as possible, talk to as many people as possible, and it didn't matter what industry they were in, I still had a conversation with them. And one thing I learned when talking to some of these executives, and a lot of executives do not look like me, right? I'd have those conversations with them. How did you get where you are at? And when you're about to hire somebody, what do you look for? And they told me straight up, it's about who you know. It's about who you know, because he has hired, you know, folks, somebody call him, hey, I got this kid, you know, I'm gonna send him your way, he's good. And because of that, right, boom, that person has a job. And so I was like wondering, should I go to college when I get out the military, or should I focus on networking? And I put all my attention in networking and did not continue school. I built up my LinkedIn, my brand, and from there, I started getting job offers based off my LinkedIn alone. I was offered a chief of staff position for USAA based off my LinkedIn. I was offered the VP of communications for a foundation based off my LinkedIn. So I put a lot of effort into taking advantage of that 1 year free for the military LinkedIn, and I built my brand. And anytime, you know, I posted anything, I was saying hashtag change agent, hashtag 24 months left. I did a whole countdown for my final 24. I call it the final 24, just so people can anticipate my arrival to become a civilian, right? So when I ended up jobless, that was surprising to me, because me of all people, I am very strategic, I have plans, I worked on my brand, but just know that in God's timing, things will happen when they're supposed to happen. When things are not happening, something is happening, right? So that's what I did. Those are the resources. So internships to get to know people and building your brand on LinkedIn.
Thank you, panelists, for sharing that. Thank you so much. This is a question for each of you. What is the one thing you wish you knew at the beginning of the transition that you think the audience can benefit from? One thing you wish you knew before you transitioned.
I wish I would have invested in a wardrobe. because I got out the military and I'm like, what do I wear? And then saving more money. I mean, I went on 5 combat deployments and I came back and bought a car every single time. So I didn't really save as much money as I should have. I saved enough to not work for 6 months, but one thing that I did do that I would encourage others to do is to never live above the means of what your disability and retirement can pay. So, luckily, I was smart enough to know that that Buckhead condo could be paid, my cost of living expenses could be paid for by my disability and my retirement pay alone. Could I go to Pasha and eat my steak kebabs? No. Can I go to STK and have that ribeye? No, I cannot. I have to sit at home and eat, budget. But my disability and my retirement pay was able to take care of me when I did not have a steady income.
I'll go ahead and go. I think the one thing that I wish I knew when I transitioned that I do know now is that I would become the person that I am today. Like I mentioned, when I transitioned, I was extremely young. I didn't know what was on the other side. I just knew I was gonna go to school, I was gonna figure it out. And so for me personally, I think if I knew that I had the strength, the courage, the drive, and the motivation that got me to this point, then I probably would have been doing something, way different. But I think life has a way of showing you that your path will be made plain, and my path was made plain. I will never, ever, ever regret going to law school and being an attorney. It was a lifelong dream, and I was able to achieve it during my lifetime. And so I think if I knew then what I knew now, it probably wouldn't have been as hard. But because I am the person I am now, I have the ability to share my story with others and tell them that there is light on the other side.
For me, I'm like Dwayne mentioned, I'm also from the country, like in Mississippi, a little trailer park, a little small spot, like right outside Air Force Base, but no military people really in the family. The way that I was brought up, it's the money in the mattress type of a thing. We don't use banks or none of that stuff. That type of a mentality means that as you got older and now you started to make money, you had that scarcity mentality as well. And so I, for forever, didn't do a good job of taking what my efforts, my leadership, and all of these things had done for me and find a way to put it to use so I wouldn't have to do more on the back end. So if nothing else, if I was plugging more things and I'm actually I will tell you, go and check out Dwayne's work in All About Fitness, because although his bio says he's a fitness instructor, that fitness is whole person. It includes your spiritual fitness and your financial fitness as well. So the idea of finding ways to make money for you even while you're sleeping, super important. I wish I had done more of that earlier, because my bio said and Nikki pointed out, she was picking out this car. It's like, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm super excited. Now I'm thinking about, hey, here's money to spend. It's like, no, let's go do this car thing. But from an investment perspective, there are so many different tools and avenues for you to find a way to save even those small things so that you can go and enjoy life the way that you kind of dreamed about as a kid, even if it didn't seem attainable.
What I wish I would have known years ago is the importance of seeking and finding out your God-given purpose. And once you find that God-given purpose, having the boldness and the audacity to step out and to walk in it. I'm a PK, but I was a wayward PK. And I'm still, like everybody else in here, struggling with walking the straight and narrow versus doing what they know that they should do. And again, I say this is not tied to time or age, because as you can see, I don't have a watch. June 1st, actually May 31st, 2023 was the last time I wore a watch. And one of the things I said I wanted to do when I got out the military was walk in my purpose, help others, and travel. and never work again. In order to do that, like Tony said, I had to find, number one, somebody to teach me that. I grew up without a lot of money. If anybody can relate to Pro Wings when Payless was open, I grew up wearing Pro Wings to school and being embarrassed. Also, I grew up as this macho type that didn't want to ask for help. So once I figured out the importance, and I was in North Carolina, where I met Nikki, of seeking my God-given purpose, and having the audacity and the boldness to walk in that purpose, there's nothing like that feeling in life. Again, this is not tied to time or age, because everybody in here, if you don't know your purpose, you can find your purpose. I just turned 43 Christmas Eve. I didn't identify my purpose and accept my purpose to 2014 or 15 while I was at Fort Bragg, now called Fort Liberty. And I walk my purpose every day through my nonprofit, helping others, and I'll never have to work again. Because if you chase your purpose, keywords, God-given purpose, He has to provide the provision for the vision, but will you be bold enough to walk in your purpose? I don't wake up having to worry about anything, because God said if you walk the way He told you to walk, He's alive, He doesn't provide the provision. That's what I wish I would have known earlier. Because then, like Tony said, I'll be much further along. But like Nikki said, everything happens in God's timing. So I'm here to tell you, find your God-given purpose, whether you're 70, 60, or 43 like me, and walk in it. And God is a lie if He doesn't provide the provision for your vision.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing your stories with us and the information. We greatly appreciate it. Now that I've asked the panel questions, it's your turn to ask them questions. So, if you could please raise your hand, and once called upon, please stand up, introduce yourself, state your branch of service, and ask your questions. Could we get someone with a microphone to go out to the audience? So is there anyone who has a question for the panelists? Okay, I see you, young lady with the black hat. Someone's coming towards you with the mic. Yes, sir. We also have the gentleman up front. Hello.
First of all, giving honor to God for being here for another year. My name is Trina Dennis. I am a caregiver. I've been a caregiver for almost 16 years. My husband just had a heart transplant on March the 11th of last year. He stayed in surgery 22.5 hours. He stayed in the hospital 5 months. You know where I stayed at? Outside that door. Okay, I've been trying to, he's been waiting on the heart for, it just went over 16 years this month. And I've been trying to get a caregiver. Nobody wants to work for my paperwork. Every time I submit paperwork, you know, the post office is not cheap at all. Sending mail, registered mail through the post office. You've been waiting for that green card to come back? No card came back. He went in surgery for 22.5 hours. He was 11 Bravo for 20.5 years. I don't know what else to do. Everybody I go to now, everybody got a different story for you. Everybody got a different story. You submit paperwork, it lay on the desk. You might not see that paperwork, it'll go all the way over to somebody else's desk. I'm gonna tell you something. This guy gave me a number the other day. And he said, Miss Dennis, he said, you call these people and see what you can get. You know, I called those people, the lady asked me, if this is the unstructured, she said, how did you get my number? I said, ma'am, I'm trying to get assistance. My husband stayed in surgery 22.5 hours. He was a DOA. You know what DOA is? A dead on arrival. He had 2 strokes and he had a seizure. He went to rehab 3 times. He couldn't do nothing. He had to learn how to do everything all over again. So, you know, you pass your paperwork to these people, and they say, well, I know somebody. You don't get nothing, no response, no nothing. What do I need to do? And then they tried to put them in the nursing home 3 times. Once they go to nursing home, you lose everything. I can't be homeless.
So I'll start by saying, first, thank your husband for your service. First of all, yeah, thank you for your service. More importantly, thank you as a caregiver for your service. Because without people like you, we don't continue the fight. And that's for veterans that are all over. So
we've been married 40 years.
40 years? Well, look, clap for that too. So 2 things that I'd mention to you, well, 3 things. Number 1, the VA understands, and it's been well publicized and well documented, that they do not always get it right. Unfortunately, even though we all, you know, it's like nobody goes to work to be terrible. You know, nobody sets out to be like bad at their job and not help others. And so in a case like this, they understand that there are people and things that do get through the cracks, unfortunately. But the story that you have and the story that you're telling right now will continue to be someone's story, either as a success, but definitely as a way of motivating others to go and continue to take action. I don't know that they have any of this stuff out here as part of the vendor room for the from a caregiver perspective, to where you can go and get that specific, because you have a very specific case that you're asking about here. I don't know if they have anybody in here that actually handles that, but as soon as you like walk out of the door, your situation is something to the point where the way that I'm personally wired, I'm not willing to wait very long to go and figure that out. There is an answer that's there, and there are people that are in the room who can help you get to that point. We've got elected officials and all types of things that are here in the room. You're where you need to be. So when you walk out, I would absolutely step around, walk around those vendor tables to see if there's anything that you could do on that caregiver side. And for us, I'll tell you that you sharing the story, everybody who's in here, you're always impacted by the experiences no matter where you go and who you hear from. Take light of this, because if there's one thing we all know, we're all a moment away from a life-altering circumstance. No matter what your disabilities and stuff like that are, they've got all these DEI programs out there. There's a couple of things that we don't necessarily have choices in. We can all be your story too. And we should use that to go and motivate ourselves to take additional action. So when you walk out, I would absolutely go and see what is there, and then hopefully we can move you a step closer, even if it doesn't feel like it's on a timeline that is as fast as we would like.
I got another thing. I sent my paperwork to Warnock. Senator Warnock, you know what he did? He sent all my paperwork to the VA. And it's, you know what, I think my paper's sitting on somebody's desk. My husband went to rehab 3 times. He was just like a newborn baby. Imagine being a caregiver for a patient being a newborn baby. It's not an easy task. They have to learn how to talk. They have to learn how to hold stuff. And you got to have the patience. You got to have the patience. He's blind now. He need to have cataract surgery. They won't give it to him because they said some of the medication that he takes, he has to come off. He takes almost 30 pills in the morning time. He takes about 20 in the evening time. He got pills he got to take the rest of his life to keep that heart pumping. He was 11 Bravo in the army. I told my husband before he went to surgery, I said, if you can lay down on that ground for 20 years, you can come back out.
Yes, thank you again. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And there are people out here who will be able to assist you and get you pointed in the right direction. Thank you.
My name is Leonard Capel. I'm retired Air Force Master Sergeant, Vietnam veteran, and I work for the DOD, Department of Defense, but I also assigned to the Department of State. 20 years in the Air Force and 20 years in the federal government, and I also work for the VA. My wife still works for VA as a GS-15. She still outranked me, and she's retired Navy Master Chief Petty Officer. She got all of it. I got out. What I want to say to you, the VA just happened to be the largest medical facility in the entire world. The VA is not insurance, it's health care. Do not go into a medical facility and expect the VA to pay your bill. Just tell them, I'm a veteran, and they will triage you and stabilize you and send you to wherever you want to go. But they will not pay your bill. The misconception is that once you got a VA card, that's for the VA and nobody else. And you got them all over the country, including clinics. Now, the lady right there, if she ever tried a patient advocate at the VA hospital, but at the same time, we have in the state of Georgia a place called Georgia Department of Veterans Service. Georgia Department of Veterans Service is there to assist veterans in the state of Georgia. Because first off, some veterans are illiterate. The VA sends them one piece of paper, they get frustrated and give up. They don't know how to deal with them one-on-one. They get shot down in the first round. Now, the Georgia Department of Veterans Service is there acting as your intermediary. That means you're in the middle, you're on this side and that side. That's paid for by the government of Georgia. Georgia Department of Veterans Service, or you want to call it VSO, Veterans Service Officers. They're all over the state of Georgia. They go by whatever county you is, there's a Georgia Department of Veterans Service. Clayton County, Fort McPherson, Griffin, various spots, even in the hospital. They're there, you sign your name, they're just like your attorneys. Some people pay thousands of dollars to get benefits from the VA. Here in Georgia, you get it all free. A lot of veterans, I used to do all kinds of stuff with the VA and the State Department, but some veterans, like this gentleman right here, he's a Navy SEAL. You don't want me to tell him that, but he's just now learning about the VA. He could have been getting benefits 20 years ago. I've had many guys come to me, I've been helping a lot of guys, and make sure you file way back in Kingdom Come, so they're gonna pay you all the way back to Kingdom Come, and it's tax-free. You don't even file for that. It don't exist. Do not spend a cent to get anything from the VA, period. Go to the Georgia Department of Veterans Service, they're waiting on you. Do not spend a cent, period. It's all free. Some people come to me and say, I want to fax this, do that. You don't do nothing, they do it all for you. Anyway, I can go on and on and on.
Thank you.
I have been in the federal government there 50 years. My wife is still employed. She has a bachelor, 2 masters, and working on a PhD. She's a high achiever and fast burner, so I'm acting as an independent right now. Better known as a family member now, because they change words every year. Anyway, there you have it.
Thank you so very much for your remarks. Thank you, sir. So in a moment, we'll get ready to transition to the breakout rooms. But if you could, keep questions for the panelists. We have this gentleman right here, Sharonda. He's been waiting for a while to ask the panelists a question.
Good afternoon. I know we can do better than that. Good food. Good afternoon. First, I want to start by first saying thank God for being here. I also want to tell each and every veteran in the room that I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. I wasn't a veteran myself, but every member of my family was. So I was a member of the veterans on the other side as a family member. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask the panelists. When you were transitioning, did you find a lot of support for the families as well in terms of you transitioning back into their lives at a capacity that you hadn't been for a period of time, whether it was deployment or, being stationed somewhere else because I found that tough as a young man growing up when my father was deployed to Germany and things like that and not seeing him. And it took time to get back, into that mode. But, once we got into it, but I don't remember the military providing that support, so I wanted to ask you.
The short answer is nope, or not enough. You can pick one. Either way it goes, it seemed like it was non-existent. So, while still active duty, y'all come back from your deployments and stuff like that. While you are continuously paid by the U.S. government and active duty and got all those things, your family, the kids, they can go and see the medical providers and all those things. But the moment the primary member retires, while I get 100%, they know 0% of what else might still be affecting my kids as a result of the things that they've experienced and seeing me wake up at night and just all of those types of things. And here's mom and having seizures and things like that from her time that we're in the military as well. So the short answer is not enough is actually done to go and take care of the families. I've always made the half-hearted, I say that all jokes are half-truths. Those of you who saw the Cat Williams interview, here recently, he had a lot of stuff to say, and some of it was jokes, but he had a lot of stuff to say. The military would always tell you, hey, we're a family, we're a family. Well, don't tell me we're family and then tell me that my family has an expiration date of June 1st, 2023, that it has an expiration date of August 31st, 2020. That's not it. We have got to go and do a better job. So I would personally like to see more of that same outreach continue to go and take care of it. The scholarships and all that stuff is cool, but if we're not in a mental state to where we can build ourselves up and those networks aren't actually there, we haven't done the self-care and healing so we can take advantage of those programs, we will continue to fall short in those places. I'm glad you asked that question.
Thank you so much. And if you all would please give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you, panelists, so very much. We greatly appreciate you all and your insights. Thank you. So next, what we're going to have are the breakout sessions. The LinkedIn room. You also have a place to go get headshots done. And once you get that done, someone will help you with LinkedIn, getting signed up on LinkedIn. There's also art therapy. There's health awareness for veterans. And there's also benefits navigation. Someone will help you navigate your benefits. And that you can now go ahead and go to the breakout. Hold one moment, please. I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. The Director of Senior Services, Ms. Tori Stronger-Tanks, would like to make some remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope everyone has had an amazing time. I just want to really thank the City of Riverdale for everything that you did. The City of Riverdale, please give them a round of applause. They have operated with a spirit of excellence, and our department is truly thankful for the work that we have done. But I do want to answer a question. Everyone keeps asking, why do they do this event every year in January when they know that it's cold? Right? That's the question that I know people are asking me as a Director of Senior Services. So I have to share this with you because I would be remiss if I didn't. The reason why you're sitting here is not because Senior Services is such a great department and we're so smart. This is a conception out of a group of seniors 4 or 5 years ago, Armed Forces senior veterans. They got together and they came up with this whole entire idea. And we're talking about senior veterans. Right now we have young veterans on this panel, but the people that started this, they are older veterans. So can you please give AFSC a round of applause? I'm gonna call their names. The founding members who started this and put all of this together, even the Veteran of the Month program that is held at the Board of Commissioners office, all of this came out of their heads, not ours. So right now, can I have Miss Patricia Basin to please stand up? She's in the back. Can you give her a hand? Mr. George Patterson, could you please stand up? Miss Aretha Inslee. Mr. Mose Inslee. Dr. Clarence Werneau. part of AFSV, could you please stand if I missed anyone? So now, this is what happened. They said, every November, we're overwhelmed with all of the programs that are going on for veterans. We have to figure out how to go get our free meal. Every city is doing something. It's just too much. And they said, can you please start the year off with a veteran program? So veterans can be on everyone's mind all throughout the year. And so out of honor of that senior group that started this event will be in January, and we're hoping that the City of Riverdale will partner with us, and this will be the home of VetConnect for years and years to come. So give yourselves a round of applause. I also want to acknowledge the chair of the committee, Ms. Brandy Rocker. Where's Brandy? The co-chair, Joy Walston, can you raise your hand? Ms. Shakiba Williams and the Riverdale team. I also would like to acknowledge our Assistant Director, Ms. Melissa Myers-Bristol. We are Clayton County Senior Services, and our job is to ensure that seniors and veterans in Clayton County, that you have everything that you need. If you do not, please stop by our office. It is in between Popeyes and Krispy Kreme on Riverdale 85. We are supposed to serve and work for you, and if we're not, please give us a call and let us know how we can serve you. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Christy, for facilitating this, and thank you for the panelists.
You're right on the money. We're about to do 2 raffle drawings. Sharonda, are we doing that now? So they're about to do 2 raffle drawings now. Give us just a moment. And also I have one other quick update. The benefits navigation is actually going to be Understanding Social Security and Medicare with Mr. Ronnie Kendrick. That's Understanding Social Security and Medicare with Mr. Ronnie Kendrick. Also, if you all have any questions for the panelists after we finish, you all can feel free to ask the panelists some questions in regards to their expertise. Okay, thank you. Okay. So I'm going to read off the last 4 numbers of the raffle ticket. It is 98